Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. So today is January 31st, and in today's video, I finally get to my January member voted video topic. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there are memberships available to my YouTube channel, to many YouTube channels, but specifically to my YouTube channel. So if you just go to my main channel page, you can go ahead and click on that join button there. And then you'll get this pop-up menu that outlines basically the different subscription options that allow you to become a member of Colred Plays. This is a great way to support the channel if you enjoy our content. So you do get a bunch of extra perks. And one of the perks here is priority video suggestions. Now, the way this works is there is a member section of our Discord community where the members get a little bit more access. They get some extra perks. And one of those perks is that once a month, we set up a vote. So basically, the members get to make suggestions for the first week of the month. And then at the end of the first week, we take the most popular suggestions, we put it to a vote. And then the top vote receiving topic becomes a video that I must do during that month. So usually it's about a 2-week voting system, and then I get 2 weeks to prepare and record the video. Now, yes, this month I have waited until the very last day of the month. I have had COVID for the last 2.5 weeks, so please forgive me for taking so much time. But in general, I'd like to get to these topics pretty quickly, and I want to make sure that the members always get their video. So if you're interested in forcing me to do a topic that maybe I haven't covered, I've been avoiding, or I haven't just done in a while, you can become a member and vote for the February video. Okay, so this month's video is on the Hydra clan boss. Specifically, it's about newer and mid-game accounts and sort of an intro to team compositions for the Hydra clan boss. Now, I have done a previous Hydra clan boss video that's very good. It goes over all of the skills of all of the heads, some considerations in terms of team building, compositions, so on and so forth. It's got a lot of information. I highly recommend you watch that video either before this one or after this one. I will put a link up here, or Sun will put a link up here to that video. Now, this video is going to be more focused on the actual execution of the fight. So I'm going to build a team and take it into the fight, and we'll see how we do. Now, I don't have a really good account set up for the exact topic as it was requested. The best I could do here is bring this old account out of mothballs. It is a level 80 account. It's a bit underplayed, so it's, I think, underpowered for level 80. It's a good account. I don't want to, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is a good account. There are good champions on this account. They are well built. Not many of them are specifically built for Hydra, but it's fun to break this old account out of mothballs and just take it for a spin because I don't get to play it very much. I haven't played it really in about 8 months. So we're going to do our best to showcase a team. Remember that if you don't have the champions that I'm talking about, or you don't have the gear that this account has, that's okay. We're going to be talking about the concepts behind team building and the execution of the fight. And that should stand you in good stead regardless of where you are in the game. All right, so let's not delay any longer. Let's go ahead and get to the Hydra clan boss fight. I hope you're ready for it. I hope I'm ready for it. Let's get started. Just a quick reminder, I do live stream every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. It's a variety stream on Thursdays. Usually I bring out my main account, which is a level 100 free-to-play account. It's an end game account, but it is free to play. And we just take on some of the harder challenges in Raid. That's not something I do too often on this channel. So it's a kind of fun for me to play the main account and to show that off to players and answer questions about the end game. And if you're interested in that content, you should definitely come by. It's a fairly interactive live stream. I talk a lot to the viewers. So if you have questions or you just want to see some cool stuff, come check it out. Like I said, that will be 3 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, and it is Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so Hydra clan boss. It is an intimidating fight. There's a lot of information and you need to know a lot of things in order to build a team effectively. But the great news is there are a ton of resources for getting that information. This video is just one of them. So here we are at hellhades.com again. We come here a lot. And if you go up to the Raid Shadow Legends drop down menu, you will see there's a whole section right here dedicated to Hydra clan boss. So what we're going to do is we are going to go down to the Hydra clan boss guide. And then you have various guides. You can see the Hydra boss heads, Hydra boss rewards, the season guides, their champion spotlights. There's all sorts of stuff. You can also come up here again and go to getting started with Hydra. This is a different kind of guide, and this works like an intro to the fight. So this basically walks you through the different skills of some of the heads and some of the champions that you might use, buffs and debuffs that you want. There's even a video here by Ivy Lee Gaming. So there are a lot of resources right here. You can also go ahead and do searches on YouTube. I know that Nubraids is an expert on Hydra. He does a lot of stuff on Hydra. Also, if you go to the HH Gaming YouTube channel, so that's Saphira's YouTube channel, he covers Hydra from time to time. I'm sure there are other content creators out there who would do really well. I think MTG Jedi likes Hydra Clan Boss as well. And that's not telling you not to watch this video, just so you know there are more sources than just me. I am not the Hydra expert, but I think that may actually play in our favor in today's video, because I do the things that I think players should do when they are learning a fight when it comes to Hydra. So one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find out the rotation that you are fighting. So that's pretty easy. You can just go into the game, come over here to the clan bosses, go to Hydra, and you'll see right here, it actually now tells us the rotation. It didn't always do this, but they have added this just a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago. It now tells us the rotation number. So this is rotation number 5. Now, if you want to stay in game and use the game as your resource, you just go ahead, click on the normal go to battle, and you're going to get this boss guide in the corner, and this will walk you through all of the heads. Now, the great thing about this Hydra guide in game is that it is specific to the rotation that you are in. So there are 6 Hydra heads. The 4 on the left are going to be the 4 starter heads, and the 2 on the right are the substitute heads that can be brought in when one of the heads dies. So if you look through the boss guide, you'll notice that they are actually listed that way. And the 5th and 6th head are the substitute heads. So you can see the head of Torment here. You can kind of see it faded. That's the head of Torment. And then the last head is the head of Wrath. Now we just got a new rotation today. Head of Wrath was in the last rotation as a starter head. It's now a substitute head. So all 6 heads will always be available in every fight, but the starter heads really matter. In addition, the heads can change affinities from rotation to rotation. So this guide has them listed with their current affinities, which is important when you are building your team, because anybody who is a debuffer, especially your provoker maybe, or your hex debuffer, those champions need to not weak hit, basically. You need to make sure that you are as consistent as possible with those specific buffs. And so you have the current affinities listed right here, also obviously on this page. However, on the hellhades.com site, there is another thing that you can do here, which is you can go down to the bottom right hand corner in this drop down menu and go to Raid Stages tool. This is an excellent tool. I use this tool almost every day. So here is another drop down menu. You just want to go to Hydra, and then you want to choose the rotation. We saw we were rotation 5, so we're just going to choose rotation 5, and then we want to select a stage. Now let's start with normal, and let's just look at the stats here. So what this does is it gives us the stats for all of the heads. It also gives us the stats for the substitute heads. You'll notice there is a note here about the Head of Suffering. If the Head of Suffering is alive, add 50 resistance to each head. Decapitating the Suffering head removes this. The Head of Suffering removes this. So basically, when the Head of Suffering is on the board, every head gets an additional 50 resistance. That means you need basically an additional 50 accuracy to land your debuffs. So the way this works here is if you look at any of the resistance stats for the bosses, the resistance stats are in white. That's the actual resistance of the boss. The number in orange here is the amount of accuracy you need to overcome that resistance. The reverse is true for the accuracy stat. So this is the accuracy of the boss, and that means this is the resistance you need to resist the boss. That's specifically important if you're trying to resist the Head of Mischief. But as you can see, if you look through all of these heads, the highest resistance requires an accuracy of 165 to overcome, but there's going to be an additional 50 resistance there. So we need really about 50 to 60 additional accuracy. So we're shooting for about 220 to 225 accuracy on every single champion. Now, that may be a stretch, even for, when you think about this is normal Hydra, this is the lowest stage of difficulty. 225 accuracy is a lot. Remember that you can have a decreased resistance debuff that you can put on the bosses. That would reduce your accuracy requirement. You can also have an increased accuracy buff on your team. That's another way to get your accuracy there a little bit more easily. But this is an important number to know. In addition, you can see that the various heads have different levels of HP and defense. You can see the Head of Suffering has much more HP than everybody else and way more defense. The Hell Hades site has done a nice job of showing us what's called effective HP. So this is basically like a standardized value that combines the max HP of the head and their defense to basically tell you how much effective HP you need to remove. So it's a relative measure of survivability. And you can see here that the Head of Suffering has a whole lot of effective HP, 8.6 million, whereas the next highest is about 2.6, no, 3.2 here. So less than half. And some of them, like the Head of Mischief, are actually a lot less, have a lot less survivability here at 1.3 million. So what this tells us right away is that in this rotation, chances are we're not removing the Head of Suffering often. The Head of Suffering is going to be alive for most of this fight. So that means we have to get that accuracy on everybody somehow, either through the stats, through an accuracy buff, or through a decreased resistance debuff on the heads themselves. Now, if you've watched my other video, I have gone over the requirements for sort of dealing with each and every head. Every head needs a solution. The great thing about normal Hydra clan boss is that the heads don't swap very often. So if you kill the Head of Decay, the Head of Decay will probably respawn like 95% of the time in the same spot. So these extra heads here, the substitute heads for normal, don't really come into play very often. Even in hard, they don't come into play very often. So for the first two difficulties of the Hydra clan boss, the substitute heads are kind of like not major considerations. Once you get to brutal, they will sub in fairly frequently. And so your brutal and nightmare teams will need to be more versatile. They'll need to be built to handle all 6 heads. Whereas your normal team will probably just be built to handle the 4 starter heads. In hard mode, you can start to experiment with a little bit more flexibility there. But so for today's video, we're just going to focus on these 4 heads. That's all we need to do. We need to focus on these 4 heads, find a team composition that can solve each of these 4 heads, and then we probably don't have to worry about the substitute heads at all. Okay, so on these 4 heads, what are the solutions? What are the things that we have to worry about? Well, for the Head of Decay, the Head of Decay is probably the most important head because it cleanses debuffs from the rest of the team. Now, debuffs are really important because they help you control the fight and do more damage. We don't want the debuffs to be cleansed. The way we control that Head of Decay is with a provoke. So you want at least 1 or maybe even 2 provoke champions to handle the Head of Decay. Other than that, for this rotation, there's not a ton to worry about. There are obviously there are things that we need to worry about. We're going to get poisons. We're going to need cleanses. We're going to need sustain. We're going to need damage. We have the Head of Mischief, which can be a problem because the Head of Mischief redirects hits 75% of the time, unless it's under a Hex debuff. So if you have a champion that can bring a Hex debuff and land it on the Head of Mischief, preferably because it's an AoE, then that's great. You can also build an AoE champion in a cursed set, and that will allow you to use the artifact set to apply even if you don't have a champion who natively has the skill of Hex. If you don't have any of that, you could basically handle the Head of Mischief in this particular rotation with AoE damage. Just hit hard with AoE damage, and usually that's enough to handle the Head of Mischief. Now, this is a solution that you can't always use when the Head of Wrath is in the rotation, because the Head of Wrath has a damage counter. Every time it's damaged, it adds 1 to the counter. When I think it gets to 15 stacks, it does a massive AoE nuke that can one-shot your entire team. So using AoE damage when the Head of Wrath is up is a problem, but because we're doing normal difficulty, that shouldn't be a problem in this particular rotation. If you are doing brutal or nightmare, you're going to need a slightly different strategy, but this video, per member's request, is based around an introduction to early or mid-game Hydra. So remember, you can get your Mithrala just clearing normal. You don't even have to clear hard mode. You can get your Mithrala just fine. Just clearing the top chest, preferably getting 2 chests if your clan is clearing normal Hydra. So that's sort of the goal of this video. Now, I do want to mention one other tool that comes from HH Gaming, and that is the HH Optimizer. So this is free. You can sign up for this, download it onto your computer. Millions of people use it. It's totally safe. And basically, it gives you an opportunity to upload your account information into the website. It tracks everybody who's uploading their information, and it can track the results of those players' fights. So if you are looking for a suggestion here, you can come and you can see, you go to the team optimizer, you go to Hydra rotation 5, the stage is normal, so difficulty is normal, and then you just go find a team. And this is going to load suggestions based on the champions that you own. So this isn't going to suggest teams with champions that you don't own. It will just load in various results that other players have gotten. As you can see, somebody here has got a 35 million damage key, 1 key for normal, which is fantastic. I think for normal, you need like 6.7 million. So this is, 5 times the damage that you need. So these are champions that I have on this particular account. You may not have those champions. If you don't get a good suggestion here, that's okay. We'll talk about how to build a team comp like manually in just a moment. But this is a way to get suggestions about teams and to let you know, what kind of team compositions other people are using successfully. So anything here that is probably 10 million or better would be a viable team to use. Like I said, I think you only need 6.7 million or something, but you want to have a little bit of leeway because you might not have the gear that these players have. So there are tons and tons of suggestions you can see with all sorts of different champions. But now let's go into the actual game. And here's a team that I have built. Now, like I said, this account has some good champions. I don't want you to look at this and be like, oh, he's using 5 legendary champions. I can't possibly get into normal Hydra. You can. I'm using these particular champions because these are the champions that have been built on this account. I have not leveled a new champion on this account in 8 months. This is the best I could do in terms of putting together a team that I think covers all the bases. So let's talk about the various champions and what they do. So let's start with the lead. One of the things here that's really important is we want to go faster than the head's speed. We want everybody on the team to go faster than the heads. Now, if you go back to that stages tool, just real briefly, you'll see the speeds here. The fastest head here is 210. That is the head of mischief. The head of mischief is always the fastest head. And the slowest head here is 100. So we want our champions to go faster than 210. Now, we might not build all of our champions this fast. So a speed aura can be really useful to help the team get up to speed. You could also use turn meter fill. You could use increased speed buffs. Those are all great ways to make sure that your team is getting more turns than the Hydra heads. So here, Mighty Uko is bringing us increases ally speed in all battles by 20%. That's the aura. And that's going to allow us to exceed the speed of these heads. Now, I think my slowest champion is built somewhere around 200, something like that. We'll go over these champions in just a bit. But so with the speed aura, they are all naturally faster than the heads, but they're not that much faster. These champions aren't super fast. And you can see I don't have any turn meter fill here. So it's just their native speed. It's just their natural speed that is what's being applied with the aura. Now, in addition to that, Uko brings a lot of things. Uko has an AoE A1 that has a decrease attack. Decreases attack is going to help us stay alive. Uko also has an AoE buff strip and block buffs debuff. So Uko can remove the buffs and then make sure that new buffs don't get applied. Uko's also the reviver on this team, and that's usually good to have. You usually want one reviver somewhere on the team. So providing a lot of utility, a really great legendary former fusion that I completed on this account. Now here we have UDK Ultimate Death Knight, who was a free login champion. Now the great thing about UDK in this particular team is that he's got a provoke on his A1, and he has strong affinity against the head of despair. It's the head of despair, I think, or the head of decay. I always forget. Head of decay. It's the head of decay. So is strong affinity into the Head of Decay, so not going to weak hit on that provoke. It is a low chance. My UDK is not booked. He's not built particularly well, actually, but he does have a provoke on his A1, which is great. He also provides a little bit of extra sustain. He has a shield and some continuous heals for the entire team. He also has a decrease attack AoE, which is a backup to Uko's decrease attack. Now, Bad Alcazar here is my cleanser and my primary source of sustain. You're always going to want at least one really good source of sustain. And so, although UDK provides a little bit of sustain for the team, Bad Alcazar has a full AoE cleanse and then two different ways to heal the team. His A1 heals the team a little bit, and then he has continuous heals on his cleanse, and that provides the majority of sustain for this team. The fourth champion is Duke the Pierce. Duke the Pierce has a provoke that is placed. It can't weak hit. So even if he were weak affinity, it wouldn't weak hit. And it is on a 4-turn cooldown, I think, maybe a 3-turn cooldown. So it's not enough by itself. That's why UDK is here. And hopefully between these two champions, we can keep the Head of Decay, Head of Decay provoked all the time. UDK also brings a 100% AoE decrease defense and a decrease attack. So more decrease attack. It's really important to have that debuff out there, but this is our AoE decrease defense champion as well. He also brings a decrease accuracy on his A1. All right, now our last two places are our damage dealers. You're always going to want at least 2 damage dealers. That's really important because if one of your damage dealers gets devoured, you need a second damage dealer to make sure that you have enough damage to get that first one free before he's swallowed or digested or whatever it's called. So here we have Septimus, who has a max HP hit that hits really hard. His A1 also hits really hard. He's probably my slowest champion. In fact, he may not be faster than the heads. He might be actually slower than the heads, but I think he's running around 200 speed, something like that. And then here we have Tamisha. Tamisha is an AoE HP burner. She also has a decreased speed. It's a conditional AoE decrease speed, but that can be really valuable. You want to bring a decreased speed if you have it, if you can fit it into your team. And so for her, it requires that the targets be below 50% turn meter, which isn't always going to work. But it is additional utility. And especially if you can slow down the Head of Decay, that's going to allow you to get more opportunities to get back to those provokes. And like I said, the provoke is really important because that's the head that cleanses debuffs from everybody. You want those debuffs to be up 100% of the time, if possible. Now, we are missing a couple of things from this team composition, but we just don't have them. We don't have a Hex, so we're going to have to deal with the Head of Mischief with AoE. The good news is Tamisha has AoE, Bad Alcazar has AoE, Uko has AoE, Duke the Pierce has AoE, and UDK has AoE. Not all of those are nukes. Tamisha's is the only nuke that's an AoE. Septimus is a single target hitter. He has no AoEs at all, but he hits single targets very hard. So he will help free whoever we can. As long as he's the one who gets devoured by the Head of Mischief, we're actually in great shape. If he's the one who's alive, and let's say Tamisha gets devoured by the Head of Mischief, that might be a little bit tricky for us without that Hex debuff. Another thing we're missing here is we don't have a specific Mischief tank. So we don't know who the Head of Mischief is going to hit. That might cause problems. But we do have a way to remove buffs and to block them from spreading, and that is Mighty Uko's A2. So that's how we're dealing with the Head of Mischief in this particular team. Now, like I said, you don't need these particular champions, but these roles are kind of important. So decrease attack is going to allow you to live longer. Decrease defense, if you can bring a weaken, that can be great. That's going to allow you to do more damage. You need a cleanse in this rotation to cleanse poisons, and then you need at least 2 damage dealers, and preferably 2 provokes if you can get them, or 1 really reliable provoke. It helps if your champions are going really fast. If you're just going really fast, maybe you have a cooldown reset champion like a Kymar. I do have a Kymar here on this account, but I decided not to use him today. But you could do that, and that might allow you to cycle around without having 2 provoke champions or 2 cleansers or whatever you're running here. Okay, so that is the explanation of how to put the team together. But like I said, you don't need these particular champions. You could use whatever champions fill those roles. Now, I'm going to fight this fight manually. I highly suggest that you fight your fights manually at every difficulty level until you are exceeding the maximum chest by at least 50%. So if you go back here and you're saying, okay, well, I'm at hard mode. What's the top chest? Well, the top chest is 20 million. So until you can manually get to 30 million, you probably don't want to auto battle. Right. And even if you can get to 30 million manually, you may find that you have to auto battle 4, 5, 10 times before you clear 20 million on auto. One way you can kind of bridge the gap is you can manual the opening. And then if the opening works, you can go ahead and let it auto battle. So sometimes, for instance, based on this team, I might miss my first 2 provokes. It happens. It's possible. It can happen. If I miss my first 2 provokes, or even if I just miss one of my provokes, I might say, you know what? I'm just going to restart from the beginning. And then I land my provoke and I'm like, okay, now I can just let the fight auto and we'll see what happens. But today I'm going to probably manual the whole fight because I'm not sure how well this team is actually going to do. Like I said, I haven't played this account in about 8 months, so I don't remember exactly how powerful these champions are. I will show you their builds right now just so you get an idea about where they stand. Okay, so here is my bad Alcazar. I forgot that he was in Relentless. You can see I do have the accuracy. That's important. He's running at 214 speed, which is not really fast enough, but with the speed aura, we'll get him up to the speed that we need. Attack is not high, defense is not high, even HP is not high. Not super survivable, but he does have 100% crit rate and a little bit of crit damage. This guy is basically there for sustain. Remember that his A2s also apply poison, so that's going to be a little bit of damage there, but he's basically there for the cleanse and the heals. Here we have Septimus. Septimus is in a savage set and a speed set. You can see he's running very slow at 163. In fact, I feel like I should rebuild him. I feel like I should get him into some speed boots. Let's see if we can do that right now. All right, so that gets him up to 199, which is much better. We didn't lose any crit rate, which is important. He's got okay crit damage at 166%. He doesn't need accuracy for anything, so you don't care about accuracy or resist. And his attack stat is about, what, 4,800, something around 4. Yeah, about 4,800. And in the savage set. So, his whole job is to do damage, to hit as hard as possible. And so I think, we did drop his attack a little bit there by getting him into speed boots, but that's absolutely okay. We need him to run fast enough to be viable for this fight. Our second damage dealer is Tamija. She has just barely enough accuracy at 219. She does have some accuracy masteries, which should get her to the required 225. So she should be fine there. And it's important that she has accuracy because she has HP burns. She also has that decreased speed and she needs to be able to land those. She does have crushing rend, which allows her to ignore some percentage of damage per 50 levels. I think the bosses have like 260 levels here, so I'm probably going to be ignoring about 5% defense. Her attack numbers aren't crazy. Her speed is pretty good at 235. She doesn't have 100% crit rate, unfortunately. And her crit damage is okay. It's at 209, it looks like, which is pretty solid. Okay, UDK is here. He is not booked at all. You can see he's completely unbooked. He does have Brimstone again. He has the accuracy he needs at 282. He's decently tanky. He's got 3,800 defense and 33,000 HP. So not a ton of HP. Okay defense, but he's running at 230 speed, which is important. You could definitely build a UDK way better than this. And unfortunately, because he's not booked, it means his chance of landing a provoke on his A1 is only 30% instead of 50% if it were fully booked. And then finally, Mighty Uko, who apparently does have a blessing I could put on him, but I don't know which one to choose right now. Actually, in a stun set for other content, running at 207 speed, it looks like. Does have enough accuracy, so a little bit slow, but it has the accuracy. The stun set is not going to play in this particular content. But so, despite the fact that I have these very good champions and I do have decent gear on them, you can see they are not specifically built for clan boss. None of these champions were specifically built for Hydra clan boss. So, that is letting you know that there are ways to get this done without necessarily overbuilding your champions or focusing specifically on Hydra. So if you have a damage dealer who's a good PvE damage dealer, just throw them into this fight. Maybe you have a Royal Guard built. Maybe you have Wukong. There are all sorts of champions that you could put into this fight that could work in different builds. Again, we're taking on normal right now, so really it's just about making sure that you have enough sustain, you have that provoke, maybe that cleanse for this particular rotation, and then the gear is less important. as you ramp up in difficulty tiers of the Hydra clan boss, you're going to need more specialized champions. But for right now, these champions do a good job built the way they are. I hope. Okay, so now we are going to get into the fight. Like I said, I'm going to start it on manual. I'm probably going to manual the whole fight. And remember, let's see, actually, what do we need? We need 6.66 million damage. So if we get 7 million damage, we're fine. If you are interested in Hydra Clash, though, because your clan is doing Hydra Clash, you may want as many points as you can like humanly get. So I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep pushing past the 7 million mark if I can. All right, now one of the things that's really important is you can restart this fight at any moment. You just come here and you do free regroup. Super important. You just click free regroup and you go back to the beginning, and it didn't use a key. It didn't count for Hydra Clash. It didn't do anything. So you're going to want to use that a lot. Give yourself several hours to come into this fight and experiment with your team composition to maybe rebuild some champions. Today is a CVC. It's a good opportunity to do that. You get points for rebuilding champions as you level up gear and stuff like that. So yeah, don't put so much pressure on yourself that you have to get this all done in 20 minutes. It's not going to happen, right? You need to learn the fight, and you need to have several opportunities to make sure the fight is going the way you want it to. I don't believe this fight is overly RNG based, but RNG does play a role. So sometimes you can get super lucky or you can get super unlucky, and that may affect how you progress through your key. If you get unlucky, you may just have to do the free regroup, 20 times before you get a key that you like. That can happen. So that's why I'm saying give yourself some time. So as we can see, Tamisha is our fastest champion, which is a little bit unfortunate. Remember that she can apply a slow with her A2, but it requires that the target have less than 50% turn meter. So right now, that's not really great because most of the heads have more than 50% turn meter. We want a slow to land on the head of Decay here, which is the left head. That's the head that can be provoked. And so that's the most important slow, because that's the cleansing head. So right now, we're not going to open with the AoE. We'll just go ahead and probably get a decreased defense on somebody if we can. Let's go ahead and target the head of Blight here. I think this is going to be the head that we primarily focus our damage on. It's going to be the two left heads. The third head is the head that has all the defenses, so that's going to be hard to kill. And then the Mischief head is hard to hit without using AoEs. So we're going to focus our damage on the leftmost heads. So let's start here. Yeah, we get a decreased defense out. That's nice. Okay, now UDK's primary purpose here is to make sure that the provoke is up as much as possible. So we're going to go with the A1. The sustain from UDK is sort of a secondary thing. Now we didn't land our provoke. We're going to get another opportunity for a provoke when Duke gets his turn. All right, let's go ahead and get a decreased attack out there. Hopefully we landed that on everybody. That's great. Now we get the provoke from Duke the Pierced. That should land. Okay. Now, here's the thing. That provoke only lasts for one turn, and the turn is about to happen. So it prevents the cleanse right now. But then we got to get another provoke out there, and that cooldown was just used, which means UDK has to land a provoke on his next turn or the turn after that. So be aware that that provoke is extremely important. You really need that head provoked 100% of the time. Okay, so now we can go ahead and hit somebody hard. So let's go ahead, and this is got a green arrow, so we're strong affinity there. So let's use our max HP hit and see what kind of damage we do. 85k. Okay. So now the Hydra heads are going, and you can see that the head of Mischief, it actually looked like I couldn't say if the head took a shot at Tamisha or at Bad Alcazar, but whoever it was either didn't have any buffs or resisted. So there are no buffs out there that we need to worry about. Now, however, you can notice that the two heads we want to damage have less than 50% HP. So we're going to go ahead and use Tamisha's AoE, which will put an HP burnout and also a slow. We missed the slow. That's really unfortunate. We did land the HP burn. All right, and this is what we're going to do. We're just going to repeat this. Remember that provoke's really important, so we're going to try to get UDK's provoke out there. And he did land it. If he didn't land it, I would probably restart this fight. because what would happen then would be a full cleanse, and I would be too far behind to really catch up. UDK, unfortunately, with a 30%, only without books, he's only 30% chance. He needs to land a provoke on one of the first 2 turns, or I'm going to have to reset this. Don't hesitate to just use your free regroup. If you don't start well, you're not going to get a good score. The most predictable rotation is the first 2 rotations, basically. You get to know what happens there really well. Play it over and over again so you can choose the optimal setup for your fight. And don't hesitate to use 20 regroups if you need to do that in order to understand what the optimal opening is like. All right, so now we can just go ahead and get into the fight a little bit more. AoE decrease defense and decrease attack. And we're going to keep using Septimus on this Head of Blight here. Okay, now we're also going to use Tamesia's damage there. She hits pretty hard on single targets as well as her AoEs. Now you can see we do have a healing reduction there. And I don't want to cleanse right now. Now this is important. I haven't gotten hit by the poison wave yet, and there is a poison wave coming. So if I cleanse now, then I can't cleanse the poisons. I only have 1 cleanser. So I'm going to have to wait to cleanse that. And hopefully Duke the Pierce doesn't die. Now again, provoke is down. So A1 for UDK, and we hope we land it. We did not land it. And we don't have the slow out there. So this may still be a free regroup. There's the poison wave. So we will cleanse that next. Second head's almost dead. Well, not almost dead, but close. All right. And there we get to cleanse. And now that's our sustain. All those continuous heals, that's really our sustain. That's all we've got here. You can see, in fact, the Head of Decay cleansed the entire enemy team, which is unfortunate. And then we got a second wave of poisons, which is also unfortunate. But at least we cleansed the first wave. They do have some buffs on them now. So I'm going to go ahead and use Uko's buff removal and block buffs. All right. And then we'll just keep hitting. See if we can get a provoke out there. We did, so that's good. We could use the AoE here, but I think we're going to wait on it just 1 more round so that we can hopefully get those slows out there in better places. The optimal opening would have had the slow included on round 2. Or, I know it's round 1 of 1, but, on turn 2, on cycle 2. That decrease attack is always nice and useful. And now we've got the actual place provoke, so that'll be nice. And unfortunately, it looks like he's just over 50% turn meter, so I'm going to still stay away from that ability, which is unfortunate because it's also my HP burn. Okay, I know we do have a dead UDK, so I'm not going to use my cleanse just yet. I'm going to wait. Now I'm going to revive UDK. That's why it's good to have a reviver. Decrease attack and defense. And now, finally, below 50% HP. I'm sorry, turn meter. Below 50% turn meter. We can use this and hopefully land a slow on that head. And there's the slow. And that's going to make life so much easier. Now, up until this point, you can see it is boss count turn 21. We've only done 2 million damage. We need 7 million damage, roughly. So we haven't done a lot of damage, but the damage starts when the heads die. So when you have a decapitated head, this head is going to take a lot more damage. Now, when it dies, it cleanses the debuffs. So we still need to reapply those debuffs. In addition, one of my champions just got devoured. So we have this third head here, which is what, the Head of Blight? Head of Suffering. Is this head? I don't know. So the Head of Suffering has devoured our champion. You can see that the counter says 5 turns. So in 5 turns, this champion will be gone forever. So we need to get this back. But the great thing that happened here is this was not the head of mischief. We can actually hit this champion with everybody. So, or this head with everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on that. I need that champion free. That's Tamija. I need that champion free more than I need the extra damage on the decapitated head. Now, I still need the provokes out. So I'm going to try to get a provoke on the A1. We landed it. That's very nice. That provoke is more important than almost anything else. If it was a choice between not provoking and having, you know, my champion devoured and disappeared forever, obviously I would save the champion first. But in this case, I do have 5 turns. And so it's going to be enough for me to get this champion free. All right, the provoke is out there right now. Let's go ahead and use the AoE to get some damage out there. And now we can remove those buffs. Okay, we're almost free. You can see the head has respawned. It is still the head of Blight. So this is what I was talking about. You don't get the substitute heads. They don't swap in that much. Basically, you get the same head to come back. That's what's going to happen 95% of the time. All right, so we got our Tamija back, which is great. And now what we can do is we can keep doing damage to that same head. We can just keep killing the head of Blight over and over again. It doesn't have a ton of defense. You know, some of the other heads may die based on the AoEs, but as long as we can kill this one relatively quickly, we reduce the amount of poison waves that come out, and then we also get that exposed neck to do a lot of damage to. If we can land a decreased accuracy on that head, it might be nice. I'm not sure. I forget if those poisons are resistible or not. All right, let's see if we can get that provoke out there. We did land the provoke. We're landing the provoke at a very high rate, which is nice. I wonder if the Hydra heads count as legendary champions, because I think he gets a bonus against legendary champions. But he's landing at a pretty high rate. I would be surprised if they do count as legendary champions. That feels like a PvP thing. Yeah, okay, let's just get the decreased defense out there if we can. Nope. Okay. I'm going to keep hitting that head. We get the new provoke out. Oh, it got resisted. You can see that it got resisted there. That was probably a 3% resist, which is very unfortunate, but that's where RNG does come in. You can get 3%ed. So he should not have been resisted. He has enough accuracy, but he did get resisted. And that can happen 3% of the time. So now I have to land a provoke with my UDK. I did land it. He's doing a very good job for me today. Although he missed the first one, he hasn't missed any since, really. Now, what we're hoping to do is get a head decapitated so we can do a lot of extra damage. And it looks like it's going to, the next decapitated head is going to be the head of Decay. Okay, so we did get the poison wave out there. I'm going to go ahead and just start hitting the head of Decay and burning him down. Decreased defense is nice. We get the cleanse out from Bad Alcazar. That's really important for our sustain. You can see our sustain is building up there. In fact, I'm going to double down on that and go ahead and, well, no, I need the provoke. No, I don't need the provoke. I had the provoke up there. I could have put the shield out. That's unfortunate. That's okay. All right, decreased attacks are not landing right now. The head of mischief is also almost dead. And what we might just do is see if we can kill that. There we go. Head of mischief's down. Now the head of mischief neck doesn't have the redirect, so you can just go ahead and start hitting it. And you're going to see that the damage totals on this head are a lot higher. So 118,000 already. That was just with an A1. All right, that was 50,000 right there. So as soon as you have an exposed neck, and this is without let me get the provoke out there if I can. This is without debuffs. So if you can get a weaken or a decreased defense out there, that can increase the amount of damage, obviously, that you're going to be able to do there. And now we've got 2 heads that are exposed, 2 necks that are exposed. So now is a time for AoE damage. So we get that HP burnout there. I'm going to keep hitting this neck. Hit whichever neck is weak affinity to you, right? Or If you're just hitting AoE, you're just hitting AoE. Let's do that. Yeah, and so as you can see, our damage numbers are jumping up right now. 329,000 on that hit. That was a huge hit. So now that this Head of Mischief is back, we're going to use the max HP over here on this exposed neck, even though we're weak affinity. That's okay. Got 101,000 on a weak hit. Unfortunately, we had just used our... Okay, so let's cleanse everybody. And let's see if we can get that provoke back. Now we just have to cycle all again. Now we don't have any heads that are really weak. Eventually this second head here, the Head of Blight, is going to die next. We need to get that provoke out there. And we've got 1 turn or 2 turns until our Septimus is devoured. So we want to be ready for that. All right, we did get the provoke out. That's great. Hopefully it's not the Head of Mischief. It looks like it might be the Head of Mischief that does the devouring. Another provoke if we can get it. There we go. UDK's being a beast today. All right, let's go ahead and block debuffs. Yeah, we could get a slow out right now. That would be a good thing. At least two of the heads would take the slow. So that feels pretty good. We did. And we got a slow on the Head of Suffering and a slow on the Head of Decay. Now that's going to be nice because the Head of Mischief did in fact devour the champion. This is a bad scenario. It's not the worst case scenario because the champion that got devoured is Septimus. Now Septimus is the only champion that doesn't have the AoE. So right now we got 4 turns to try to get the Head of Mischief. That green bar off the Head of Mischief. I'm going to put up the shield anyway. Let's see. And I will keep trying to hit the Head of Mischief, even with my single target abilities. 75% of the time I'm going to miss, but 25% of the time I'm going to land it. And that's going to be enough, hopefully. If I just land 1 big hit, that could be enough. Let's go ahead and cleanse right now. Get the sustain going. All right, I do need the provoke. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I do have 9 debuffs on the bar, so there is a spot for a provoke, and it lands. UDK is being clutch today. All right, we're almost through the green bar. If we could land 1 hit. Nope. I thought she was going to hit Head of Mischief, but she didn't. But the HP burn activated, and that was enough. Okay, so now you look at this. We're actually in pretty good shape. We are mostly healthy. We have some of our rotations. We have the provoke up and a little bit of time. We have some slows out there, 2 slows, and we've got a head that's almost dead. And we just passed the 1 key mark, right? We just got the top chest here with this team. So that's the goal. Now, we don't want to stop. You want as much damage as you can possibly get for a couple of reasons. 1, you want to see if you can potentially run this at full auto. And 2, you want to get points for Hydra Clash. So I am going to go ahead and just keep running the key. Keep running the key. And it's basically the same. It cycles the same way. The difference is over time, this counter that is currently at 10 turns, that goes down by 2 turns every time somebody gets devoured and freed. Right? So the next champion that get devoured is going to have 2 fewer turns. So they're going to get devoured faster. In addition, the amount of turns you have to free them goes down by, I think it's 1 each turn. So it starts at 5 and then goes to 4 to 3 and then stops at 2. So what you can do is you can get to a point where every 2 turns, a champion gets devoured, and then every 2 turns they get digested. So that basically means that you have to be able to free champions in 2 turns or less. That's where the speed comes in. If you are going significantly faster than the bosses, you get more opportunities to land those skills. And if you have a properly built team where even if 1 damage dealer gets devoured, the other one can free him, that's going to help as well. Now, eventually you'll fall behind. You will just fall behind. The goal is to stay ahead of the pace until you clear the damage level that you need for the key or the boss, the difficulty that you're looking for. All right, let's go ahead and provoke If we can, I misclicked, I guess. That was weird. I didn't think I misclicked. And we're just going to keep doing damage. Let's place this. There we go. We got the provoke out. Great. We're just going to keep doing damage. We're going to see, maybe we can double it. Maybe we can get to 13 million. That'd be nice. Let's strip these buffs. And as you can see, even, you know, champions that aren't always built for damage do decent damage against some of these champions. So your support champions, like Mighty Ugo is a support champion. It's basically a debuffer and a reviver. But Mighty Ugo's A2 still hits decently hard. So if you have a champion that you're specifically building for Hydra, don't hesitate to put them in 100% crit rate, you know, gear, get them some crit damage. As long as they can sustain, as long as they can survive the damage that you need for that particular difficulty, then get damage out of every source that you can. Ugo needs to be tanky. Ugo's my only reviver. If Ugo dies, that's a problem because Ugo's not coming back. So, you know, be cautious. Don't just go for damage. Make sure that you have the defensive stats that you need. But my point is, you know, like right now Ugo's in a stun set. I could have used a damage set instead. You know, I could have used crit damage, or I could have used cruel or something, and that would increase the damage without necessarily decreasing the stats that I was getting. All right, and so as you can see, we're actually in a really healthy cycle right now. When the first head is mostly dead, the second head respawns. This is going to give us time to use AoEs. We've got the third head is almost dead. You know, so whenever the heads are kind of split up like that, that gives you an opportunity to always have an opportunity. That gives you an opportunity to have an opportunity. Okay, yeah, good one, Colred. This gives you an opportunity to make sure that you always have a really good target for damage. As long as you have at least one neck exposed most of the time, you're going to do a ton of damage. Still waiting for that poison wave, which will probably come out with the next head of blight attack. Might be time to kill off this head here. Head of decay. Provoke. Please, UDK. Nope. But if we can kill him before he goes, then it won't matter. There we go. So that's the way you can avoid needing a provoke. You can get that slow out there. No, we missed the slow. The slows aren't landing. They landed over here, but it's not landing as much as I would like. I don't know if I need a little bit more accuracy. I thought it was 100%, but maybe it's only 75% chance. All right, so I'm going to finish off this fight. You don't necessarily have to watch it. We have passed our goal of damage, but Hydra Clash. I'm just going to keep pushing, and we'll come back when it's done and you can see the damage that we've completed. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, so it's not looking so good. It looks like this run's about over. I have crossed the 16 million threshold, but basically what happened, if you're curious, is Ugo died. I don't know exactly how it happened. He kind of took a lot of damage in 2 consecutive turns. I didn't get around to my cleanse in time. And Ugo died. And then Tamisia got devoured by the Head of Mischief, which is really the nightmare scenario for this team comp. Because Tamisia's our biggest AoE hitter. Septimus doesn't, like, is a single target hit, but is not likely to hit the Head of Mischief because the Head of Mischief has, you know, the redirect. And so, unfortunately, we didn't land much damage on the Head of Mischief. And now Tamisia is devoured and digested and gone. So Tamisia's not coming back. Ugo's not coming back. So we've got a few minutes here. Maybe we'll get through 1 or 2 more rotations, and then this whole team is going to die. We do have a little bit of sustain from UDK, And we still have Bad Alcazar going. So it's not like we're just going to fold instantaneously, but we don't have a lot. Hopefully Septimus can maybe get another 500,000 damage or 1 million damage out there. Maybe. We'll see. But as soon as Septimus gets devoured in 2 turns, right, it's over. So then we have no way of freeing Septimus. And there goes Septimus, and it's the Head of Mischief again. And so that's basically it. So I'm just going to hit auto and let it run itself the rest of the way. But we did clear 17 million, which feels pretty good. I don't think that this team really would do more than maybe 8 to 10 million on hard. So I don't really think it's built for that. You know, the composition could do it, but the champions aren't built for Hydra Clan boss. So I would need to get Uko out of the stun set. I would need to get, you know, more stats on these champions. I need to get all the blessings sorted out and everything. Like I said, I haven't played this account in 8 months, but this feels decent. 17.5 million. We're still getting some damage. Maybe there were HP burns out there or poisons that were still ticking away. But yeah, Septimus is gone and this is over. So, you know, I hope what you take from this is a few things. One is that manualing the fight is the best way to learn the fight and the best way to see how your team performs in the fight. It's going to give you insights into whether or not you need to tweak builds or potentially swap out champions. So definitely manual your fights. The other thing is have solutions for the heads that really need solutions. It's always going to be a provoke that you need for the Head of Decay. The Head of Decay. I always confuse the Head of Decay and Despair. So the Head of Decay needs that provoke, maybe even 2. You need a cleanse in this particular rotation. Every rotation is going to be a little bit different, and every difficulty is going to be a little bit different. So if you are going after, you know, Brutal or Nightmare, you're going to need to solve all 6 heads because they will swap when you decapitate them. But here at normal, I didn't get a single swap today. I didn't get any substitute heads at all. That's typically what happens when I run normal. And, you know, we did quite well. UDK was awesome. He was an absolute beast. So, you know, that makes me think, hey, UDK is a really good provoke solution as a backup or as a team provoker. He seems to do a really good job. So if you have a UDK, try him out, see how he does for you. In fact, he's pretty hard to kill too. So, all right. So yeah, looking close to 18 million. Hey, UDK, you want to die for me? He's got 4 turns. He's going to get devoured at one point, right? He doesn't have many turns left. There we go. One last hit. 17.9 million. That's also my Clash contribution for this account. Now I'm going to keep the result here. Don't hit the free regroup. If you like the number, keep the result. And then, you know, congratulations. You get the chest at the end of the week. And hopefully you'll get some nice protection or stone skin gear. And you get your Mithrala fragments if you don't have her yet. Okay, so that is basically it. Like I said, you know, experiment, try out different combinations, give yourself several hours, and don't hesitate to use that free regroup as many times as possible. I hope this provided some insight. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Also, let me know if you have any favorite champions that you like putting together. Maybe 2 or 3 champions that combo really well together, regardless of what tier of difficulty you're on. I always love to hear about that as well. Okay, that is it for me. I have been Colred. Thanks so much for hanging out. I will see you in another video soon.